In this episode, we're joined by Shaan from My First Million to talk about the ballsiest moves on the internet lately, like this guy who is recruiting 50 mercenaries on Twitter to take over the country of Haiti, a Russian billionaire who's launching a space nation with 1 million citizens already registered, or this dude who injected himself with lethal snake venom hundreds of times until his body developed antibodies that might be a universal treatment for snake bites. Also, the wild experiences we had hanging out with MrBeast, the most unhinged guru of the week, and our trillion-dollar business idea that Shaan immediately invested in. So put on your seatbelts, let's get into it. Have you heard of the guy who's raising a mercenary army to conquer Haiti?
I have not.
So a bit of background on this guy. So he's a British guy who went to hang out in Afghanistan during the American withdrawal and became BFS with the Taliban. He calls them the Talibros. And then he recently had a series of tweets. I don't know if they're serious, but if they are, we might have some epic drama unfolding.
So is he a good guy or he's a crazy? Okay. Obviously he's a little wild, but is he like wild good or wild bad? You said he became best friends with the Taliban. Like in my head that means bad, but am I just stuck in 2001 thinking are they good now? What's happening?
I don't know either, but this is the tweet that I can't believe nobody else is considering this. Haiti is a failed state, no government, yet it has several islands around it. Some have airports and infrastructure. Why can't 50 armed men take it and create a new country?
Wild.
The locals of these small islands relied on tourism, so just promise to bring back the tourists and give them better food than mudcakes, shoot any Haitian gangs who try to sail to the island, declare independence to protect democracy, or some other lie, turn the island into a tax haven, etc., and win. Maybe the US, UN will condemn it, but who's really going to stop it? Who cares about Haiti's sovereignty, really? What do you think of this? Do you think he's serious? Because there's more and more tweets. Like if we scroll down a little bit, you see the
What's
replies.
What's his track record of being serious? So if his first project is to take over Haiti, no, he's not serious. But if this guy's been building up a track record of sort of say crazy thing, do crazy thing, then you have to put some extra weight into his words. So what else is this guy doing?
See, you know what I love about that? It's like you're looking at it like an entrepreneur. Is this like his first
investor,
failed business?
Right?
Or is this like the sixth failed business? Because, listen, if failed business after failed business, if it's getting better and better, then that's a problem.
Yeah, exactly. If I'm when I get a pitch and if you have some audacious vision, great, fantastic. But if you've never done anything, you haven't gotten into haven't gotten into a top school, you've never built or sold a business before, you never coded a product in your life before, then obviously I there's a sort of a discount factor you apply.
I mean, he is someone who makes these wild videos where he goes hangs out with the Taliban. And now he is, what does it look like? He's selling authentic Taliban military patches.
That's wild.
This guy's he's like Borat with a sense of danger.
100%.
You know what I mean? He's like Sacha Baron Cohen, but if he was not messing around.
Yeah. Let's see if we can pull up the plan on how he wants to get Haiti, where he's organizing a meeting with the defense contractors, officials, and investors. And there's somewhere he even has a spreadsheet of 50 men who signed up to start the raid. I don't know. I think...
Yeah, but why is he tweeting this out in real time? If you're going to try to take over a country, wouldn't the element of surprise be maybe the one thing you want to keep? Why would he be, sort of openly doing this?
Maybe he wants 60 people instead of 50, he wants an audience. Who's going to support me? You know what this reminds me of? You remember when there came a time where they were trying to go to NASA or Area 51? And they made those Facebook groups and they were like, hey, who wants to join? And the reality is they actually got some good traction. I think it got don't quote me on this, but I think 20,000 people that were really interested in doing this, and then the government had to shut it down really quick because it was all right, this is getting out of hand. These people actually are going to raid Area 51. Have you heard of that? Have you guys heard of that?
Yeah, absolutely. It was a whole meme thing that happened, but I don't know. What do you think it'd be possible, Shaan? Do you think it'd be possible taking over Haiti like this?
Okay, look, I know nothing about Haiti, nor do I know anything about taking over countries. Having said that, I'd like to give you a very strong opinion. Absolutely. Most things in life are actually a lot more malleable than you think. Most problems are more soluble in water than they appear. And so I actually think that things like this, which are it's almost like a new germ. Like there's like, you don't have an immune system for it. It can actually like get you sick very easily. But once you've built up some immunity, things get harder. So, how many people have attempted something like this is probably one of the most important things to consider, right? Because if nobody's really done this, then there's probably not a very good answer for it that's like, at the ready. Versus, once you have, a crazy terrorist attack, now you have metal detectors, in every airport, and they make you take off your shoes when you fly, right? Like the defense gets built up after. And so the question is, I don't know what the state of Haiti is right now, but I don't think there's a lot of this going on. And so probably easier than you think to get a lot further than you think. Like, you remember when January 6th happened and people were like, marching?
Yeah.
They like got all the way into they're like playing with the flag and doing like limbo and stuff. It's like, how did they get this far? Like, surely there's more defenses than just this. And so I think that if something is sort of novel, there's a lot less resistance than you would expect.
That's a wild take. But honestly, I can't deny it. It's pretty logical.
My logic is solid.
Yep, the logic is sound.
They used to do it all the time, conquering countries.
I mean, yeah.
So, I don't know. There's another big move. Have you heard of the Russian guy who he made a new country in space, and he's the king, and he's been the king since 2017, basically, where he set up a new state. Igor Ashurbaly. He's a Russian scientist and billionaire who created a space nation called Asgardia.
He's a billionaire?
And yes. And over 1 million people have registered as citizens.
Wait, explain what you mean. Space nation. What is a space nation?
Yeah.
I'm like, this is
Just
a
mute the
billionaire?
video. Just mute the video
That's
and play
the
it.
guy from Boy Meets World. That's Mr. Feeney.
That's a teacher.
That's Mr. Feeney right there.
But yeah, this guy, his purpose is to create a peaceful society in space, independent of Earth's government. And he opened it to people globally via online registration. Over 1 million people have registered as citizens. And the goal is to establish permanent human presence in space. Yeah, this is the perfect video to describe his mission. I don't think it's his video.
Shaan, I don't know why you're laughing. Me and Leon both registered.
I mean, this is like, you guys have seen that pitch deck where SoftBank is talking about AI. Have you guys seen this?
No.
All right, so do you know who Shaan is, the guy who started / is the CEO of SoftBank?
No.
Okay, so SoftBank is like one of the biggest companies in the world, and they invest a ton of money. So they created something called the Vision Fund, which I think was $100 billion investment fund. And so he came in and he put billions and billions of dollars into WeWork. He put billions into NVIDIA. He put billions into Uber. But this guy just was investing in everything, and it became this meme. Like, SoftBank shows up and just gives you $500 million for your company, and so. And this guy's been rich since the 90s. He had some crazy moves. So I think he got rich off of like his stake in Yahoo or Alibaba or something like that. Like, he's got some story where he had one incredible bet that just paid for a bunch of bad bets. A SoftBank slide deck, and it's pretty famous because it's like on one you think it's this billionaire who's got this $100 billion fund. Surely they have the smartest people. Making the smartest slides and the smartest analysis, and they got quants on quants on quants, but instead it was literally like this. Like, there's a duck with a name tag that says AI Revolution. It's laying golden eggs, and then there's like another graph where it'll be like just this like beautiful hockey stick curve, like flying unicorns, and like WeWork, we're going to turn it around, and there's this giant blue arrow, and it says hypothetical illustration of EBITDA. Like, this was their real deck. And it's like, sometimes billionaires make these absolutely ludicrous plans.
I love that. I mean, it's like, you don't need a fancy camera to do great storytelling. Like, this is what the graph is going to look like. Like, just fill in the gaps in your mind.
Exactly. But the crazy thing is, he's also not wrong, by the way. He was basically pretty early to be like, hey, AI is going to make a ton of money. And he actually owned a ton of NVIDIA. He ended up selling it at the wrong time. But if he had just held his NVIDIA stake, he would have made another humongous fortune. Like, I think he owned 10% of NVIDIA, and NVIDIA is now like $1 trillion company. Like, he owned a huge chunk of NVIDIA, but ended up selling right before it took off. But he was actually directionally correct, even though this deck looks ridiculous.
Wow. Great. Yeah, see the $1 trillion business ideas that I keep pitching you, Imad, in this podcast here with my slide? Like, there it is.
Honestly, Shaan, you consider it a blessing you didn't go through them. I've went through every single one of his $1 trillion ideas. Some of them, honestly, like I hate to admit it, are kind of legit. The other,
Well, you had a list of $1 trillion ideas.
Yeah, it's
Tell
one of
about
the
pimple
segments.
one.
It's one of the segments, and I have a $1 trillion business idea as well that I'm pitching to you, Sean.
Okay.
This one's good.
Hey, man, I
Teaser.
support it. I'm still here, right?
Yeah, we have a simple rule that our goal is to put out this much, like so much value on this podcast that it physically hurts the listener. And yeah, sometimes I just have these ideas that they will go to $1 trillion, but I don't want to build them, so we just give them away for free. And the
Not
only
for free. Yeah. Okay.
yeah, well, the only thing is we'll get into it later. But the only thing is we just ask for 1%, so it's just 10 billion if you make it work, because we get the idea. So we're asking for very little. But we'll show you the $1 trillion idea later. Last big move that we recently found, the team. This guy took productize yourself to a different level. So this man, he let himself be bitten hundreds of times by dozens of venomous snakes after years of injecting escalating sublethal doses of their venom, and now produces antibodies that might be near universal treatment for snake bites. This is some...
Why does it say a man let himself? At this point, he's a snake.
Yeah.
It should say a snake. A snake is now snake proof. If you're gonna inject snake venom into your blood for years from different snakes, you're a snake.
Yeah, he is a lizard person now.
That's insane. Look at. I mean, he kind of looks like it. Look at him. Really look at him.
Yeah, it's shifted over time, I think, but this is the kind of backstory that a Marvel superhero would have, right? Like this mad scientist, he would
Or villain, I think.
Or villain. I'm thinking more villain when it comes to stuff like this. It's like his cure didn't actually work, or it did, and somebody like hit it. So then he wants to get revenge on the whole entire government.
Oh, we got a
Walk
video.
me
Hold on, I
through,
want to see
and
this.
This is a classic do not try this at home moment for people out there.
Yeah,
But walk me through this process of how exactly you would dose.
What I do is
Hold on. Is that him? Hold on. Pause. Which guy is it? Is it this guy on the left that looks like he's dying, or is it that kind of cool Navy SEAL looking dude on the previous
Right.
page? Because those are two different human beings.
Yeah. If he has people getting bit, that's different than you getting bit.
Yeah.
You're a scientist at that point.
It's about to get racist real quick.
I went south real quick.
wow.
A self-taught snake expert. That's amazing.
Injects himself.
What kind of deal can you make with big
Yeah,
pharma?
which guy is it? Look, is that him? Is that supposed to be the same guy?
Oh, that's him
He's
bald, and that's him with his white hair.
Oh,
That's the real story here. The power of a haircut.
100%. It's really him. But yeah, you just gotta. When he was getting bitten, he was bald. Apparently, that might have
Dude,
to.
someone told me this once. They go, they were talking about their haircut, and he was talking about his haircut for like 20 minutes. I was like, Doug, I don't mean to be mean, but how long are you gonna talk about this haircut? And because he was like planning it, and he was like debating. I've never done that. I just go to like whoever's the nearest person with scissors. That's who cuts my hair. And he was like, and he goes, Sean, your hair is 60% of your head. And when he said that, I was like, wait a minute, he's absolutely right. I have been completely like underappreciating the value of a haircut. If your haircut is basically 60% of your face, but you can't change your face, you can only change your hair, you should actually invest a lot of time and energy into your hair.
John, are you married?
I am married.
I mean, what does your wife think?
She doesn't care about that.
There it is. There's your answer.
wow. I mean, it makes sense, but it depends on the haircut too, right? If you go bald like this guy, it doesn't matter as much anymore,
Right.
because it's now only
No, but he looks really
5%
different.
of
Dude.
your
He
head.
looks really different. That looks like
Have
a
you
really
guys-
genuinely an old man. The other guy's just like a bald military. Like it's a massive difference. Not even close.
Have you guys seen that podcast? I think it's called Almost Friday or Friday Beers or like one of those.
No, which one? What was it? What was it again?
Okay, I don't know the exact name of the podcast. I think it's their company, maybe it's Friday Beers. I think their podcast is called Almost Friday. And they go viral on TikTok all the time. And one of the shtick, the segment they do that goes viral all the time is phrases that don't exist, but they should. And they describe something like they'll make up words. Like the one that went really viral was the guy was like, what was like? I'll give you an example of this. Hold on, let me pull it up. So he goes. One of them was podium. So he's like, he just started calling things podium. Like if something's a top 3 thing you've ever had, you just say podium, and it just means like, this is like a gold. This is like a contender for me. Like this podcast episode, this podium right now, right? Like this is an all timer. It's just another way of saying it, right?
Oh God.
So these guys do this, and I feel like this snake dude, he deserves to be one of them. Like, let's not pull a Tim Fried here. Like, you could say this at work, where it's like, you put all this effort into defending against something that's just not a threat to you. It's like this guy spent years of his life and poisoned himself in microdoses just in case he got bit by a venomous snake, which never happens anyways. And so, like, we should just, like, put him in the dictionary as just, like Noah's Ark, and then there's just, like, Tim Fried, right? And it's like Tim Fried is when you just go overkill on something you were worried about that you didn't need to worry about at all.
Yes. Yeah, going overkill on something that, in the end, nobody really needs.
Dude, imagine that being your life purpose. You know what I mean? You just came down and you're like, yeah, I'm going to do that one thing that no one really gives a shit about.
So let's say you're that guy. You went through all this turmoil, and now you're superhuman. You're flooded with antibodies for all these snake venoms. How will you approach Big Pharma to cash in?
I mean, what's the other perk? The only perk is I just can survive.
You're thinking big. I was thinking small. I was thinking carnival, circus. You're a freak show, right? Like that you take a venomous snake, it bites a poor little ferret. Ferret dies. And then you just let it bite you, and the crowd gasps. They don't want to see you die, but you live, and you're the star attraction of the show, and you make $30.
And then you
that's
save
kind
the
of where
ferret.
my head was.
You save the ferret too.
Okay, that's what I was gonna say. Ask the real questions. Are you gonna kill a ferret every show you have?
Yeah, unfortunately, the contrast is really important.
Got
to
it.
showmanship, and
Sean, I love the way your
gotta
mind
crack
works.
some eggs to make an omelet.
That's what I would.
It's even worse.
What I would do then is I would start a ferret breeding business for him.
100%.
Yeah. Wow. We already have so many.
Sean, you asked what the podcast was about. Does this explain it?
Yeah, is this a podcast or is this heaven? What are we doing right
That's
now?
what we want to hear.
This is what I want to do when I die. I just want to sit with some dudes and make jokes about the internet, like just surf the internet together infinitely and just make jokes.
Well, I mean, that's what we usually we want to make this like where you can actually somewhat learn things, but also laugh through the process.
Yeah, somewhere these words got to come from, right? They got to come from somewhere.
Okay.
So maybe this is the source. Are those the ones that are like the machine behind identifying all these new, or bringing up these new terms like Riz and mid and cap?
I think it's TikTok. It's whatever is like trending in that moment.
I think there is a small group of elites. Fuck it, let's get this.
No, keep going. I want to hear where you're going with this.
No, I think you're right, dude. I met this guy, and he just like controls TikTok. Like he's just got so many accounts, and he just goes viral all the time with his TikTok accounts. You never met this guy. He doesn't put his face in the videos, and that is kind of like the little like the dumb Illuminati, right? Like this is like the dumbest version of the Illuminati. Is a bunch of like 16-year-old kids that can create trends on TikTok. They can kind of like manipulate the masses with stuff.
Think about it like this. It's kind of like the Andrew Tate method of getting viral. Well, he's the first one that created this, where you just got a bunch of fan accounts, and they just kept on reposting his videos through his own like coaching program. You pay $50, I teach you how to make money. You use my videos, you market it, and then you make money off my videos. Which was kind of genius because you just made a bunch of little minions running around basically reposting his stuff and making his stuff go viral. And now everybody and their mother is trying to copy that method. But it's kind of similar to like the dumb Illuminati. But what do we call them though?
Brain rot Illuminati.
No, come on, something more creative. We got Tim Fried, we got Jamie. What do we got?
But one of them invented the word Riz. Like that's also kind of cool that there's someone out there who was just like the first one to say every piece of slang, right? There's someone who said it first. Yeah. And they get no credit, and they probably ruins their life. Probably go around the rest of their life just trying to convince people that like they did this and no one cares and nobody knows, and it just like eats at them every night that like they unleash this genie out of the bottle and they're just left behind.
It's like that meme where the guy's holding his cup and he's standing in the corner. It's like they don't know. They don't know.
They don't know exactly.
Yo, but how do you come up with the word Riz? Like, I don't get it. Where does that even? Okay, thank you.
Charisma. It's from charisma.
Oh,
We just had Charlie from Charisma on Command on previous episode.
Yes.
It's coming full circle.
Riz on com.
Riz. It's 2 Z's. Does that make a difference? Oh, yeah. What did it say? Oh, they fixed it. ChatGPT fixed it.
Great.
There you
This
go.
makes it even funnier.
Yeah, that's the comfort. And 420. How did that start?
Yeah.
I mean, that even sounds like a high idea.
Hold up, Kai
right?
Cenat's the one that
I
created
feel like
Riz?
that one I could actually kind of imagine where it came from.
Hold up. Kai Cenat's the one that created Riz?
Oh, I did read that.
Oh.
Wow, he might be the only guy that just gets credit for it, actually.
Well, because,
He
yeah, okay,
definitely-
that
he
makes
definitely
sense.
stole it from somewhere.
The rich get richer.
Dumb Illuminati. That should have been a $1 trillion business idea.
Listen, I'm going to cook this up, and next episode, it's going to come up. But this week's $1 trillion business idea, insane. Insane. But
Are you going to keep teasing it, or are you going to tell it?
all right, let's just jump
Sean.
into it right now.
Sean, hold up. Do you have your wallet ready?
Yeah.
That's the real question. You gonna invest?
I'll send you my Venmo. That works too.
Yeah, exactly.
So, $1 trillion business idea. In the past, one of them was expanding the UFC, right? They added the power slap. It ended up being a huge business. And we thought, okay, how can we add the female audience to it? Pimple popping. Massive appeal, female audience. And it just brings out a primal instinct the way fighting does for women. It's like, hey, can I get that pimple on your back, right? We've all heard it.
So, just need some clarification. This is just purely factual information I need.
Yeah.
Are we talking it's a competition, pimple versus pimple? Or is it just pure satisfaction, like we all win because we get to see a giant pimple pop together? That's it. Everybody's a winner.
There is a competition. So it's a team system where you have an athlete and it's like growing pumpkins, but you're growing
On your face.
the pimple.
And your body.
Yeah.
So it's not just like a random person. Like I have to mess my skin up to get the pimple.
Well, no, not you.
As big.
You can be the athlete that pops the pimple. And the person, like your friend or somebody that you just feed chocolate every day and to let them, sweat. and
Right.
Yeah.
So you're a tag team.
100%.
Well, I was thinking that the person growing the pimple is the athlete.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's
you
the
have a
athlete, and then you have
co-founder
two people competing, and it's measured in buckets, like
I can see that.
or some way. Well, it's not fully fleshed out, but it has massive potential. So I think there's someone building it right now. After they saw the episode, I'm going to follow up with them, like for the 1%. But there's a new sport emerging. Have you seen this?
Are you ready?
Have I seen this?
Live in Los Angeles.
Have I lived this? Have I dreamed of this? Have I tried to buy tickets to this? The answer to all of those is yes.
Yes.
One. And here we go.
This was insane.
Let's go.
Wild.
You've seen this, Sean?
Yeah, we talked about this in our podcast.
I saw this video recently too. Dude, the music too, elite.
Yes. So we'll just mute
But
it.
see-
Just mute it from here.
Who is UCLA and who is USC? I thought that was a pretty big miss from a production point of view here.
Yes, that's true.
You need to have colored tracks or some sort of, AI here that's telling us who's who.
Yeah.
Dude, imagine going to your friends and bragging, bro. You'll never believe what happened.
So
My sperm is the championship sperm of the whole entire world.
I mean, look at that little Michael Phelps at the front.
I was thinking.
Look how. Oh, he just got overtook. He blew his wad too early.
And they're switching the frames for every single one.
so this is
Yeah,
a-
what's actually happening is this each frame is the next part of the track.
Yes, yeah. That's
I mean, this guy just cleaned up.
Wow.
And then that right there would have been a baby. Right there, that would have been the baby.
Yeah.
that's wild.
boom. So this is the sperm race, and
Did you see the hype video for this?
yes, it's the next slide. I think.
It was incredibly done.
You mean where they're both in the boxing ring?
Yeah.
So is it both their sperms?
Yes. So it's two guys competing. It's their sperm competing, I guess.
This is every
We should just watch
Dude,
this.
yeah.
I've seen this once, and I would love to see it again.
this is every sperm bank's freaking
Everything
dream.
big always starts small.
Yo, listen, you hear that? Kid is in the jungle.
This is the world's first ever sperm race. This is Asher from UCLA versus Tristan from USC. Two legends on microscopic racetrack. The battle for whose sperm is the healthiest, the fastest, and the tastiest. Whose swimmers will
wild.
win the race?
That part's wild.
USC versus UCLA. Friday,
logo?
April.
This is genius.
And so I saw this and I was like, this should be way bigger. And there's two things that are missing. Number one, brand and better name. Because who wants to hear anything about sperm? Like that just feels off-putting.
Right.
And vision. Vision. And I think that's where you come in, Shaan. So here's the plan. We start off with this one. The Milk Road buys Sperm Racing. Milk Road is your newsletter, your crypto newsletter.
Yes.
You buy Sperm Racing.
Used to be. I sold it, but okay.
You buy it back.
Yep.
It's a little extra step. You buy it back. It's worth it. And it becomes Milk Race.
Genius.
Much better
Already
branding
proven.
already.
Yep.
No more sperm mention. And next one, you see the business opportunities are endless. You know the Disney design map? Like this is exactly what's possible here. And I'll just give you some of the branches that this could turn into. So, celebrity showdowns. Celebrity PvP matches.
Oh my God. Incredible.
This is the viral factor right here. Imagine betting markets on this as well. You have the Milk Road. You have the upcoming fights.
Dude, this is actually genius. I'm going to message Brian Johnson right now and be like, Brian, you got it. Because I know both the guys. I know the Sperm Race guy and I know Brian Johnson. And they don't know each other.
Great.
There it is.
But if there's ever been a match made in heaven, this is
Yes.
it.
I know Elon Musk. I'll message him. And then we'll make that happen.
Love it.
Yeah, and billionaires can finally duel each other in ways they won't chicken out of. Right? This is like the real thing. Like, don't post your data.
This is a real dick swinging contest.
Yeah.
Who do you think would win?
Huh?
I mean, listen, one has a strong track record.
Yeah, see, the problem is Brian Johnson's been optimizing himself, but Elon has been getting those game reps in.
100%.
And he's got 12 kids now or whatever. So, like, the proof is in the pudding.
Exactly. I mean, listen, those are some pretty strong sperm.
Who's getting laid more? What do you think?
100% Elon. 100%.
Yeah, but time.
But also, we have to factor in schedule.
Time.
We have to factor in
Yeah.
time.
Listen. I think Elon.
Actually, neither of them have time. Brian's sleeping at like 7 p.m. And Elon doesn't sleep. So, they're both kind of out of time.
Yeah.
That's wild.
Next branch, tons of product opportunities. Frothy protein, milk race, milkshake, nut supplement brands, all this good stuff. Sponsored by Blue Chew. Next up, we can have things like the premium grip trainers called the ProFabs. This is what the athletes are going to be using, right? There's going to be a lot, like that's going to be a key thing. But even beyond that, I think next up, what people really crave. Belonging,
Yeah.
friendship,
Right.
community, meetups.
This is the gold.
Like, I was signed up to play soccer when I was 4, because that's just what you do in Germany, right? It's like going to school. I didn't know I could opt out of this. I thought it was like school, I have to go. But this could be it. It could be...
They didn't know what you would become. So I think sorry, I don't want to interrupt the flow of genius. Is there more slides?
There's more genius.
for this idea?
There's 2 more slides. One,
let's
this is the
carry
media
it.
branch of it. This is TV and documentaries. Just picture this. Like, with fighters, there's so much story behind it.
Leon, is that what I think it is they're drinking?
That's milk.
That's it. Just
Okay.
wanted to make sure.
Good.
Cool.
But yeah, I mean, we have so many opportunities for storytelling here, right? Like one episode, we might follow Malachi, a 30-year-old virgin Russian incel on a 100-day no-fap streak. Grip training all day, dunking his balls in cold, unpasteurized milk, which RFK made legal. And another episode will follow his opponent, Sam, an American who has an opposite training regimen from Malachi. Like Malachi is no-fap, but Sam is go-fap, and he faps 5 times a day. And we see which one was better. And he's like a...
Vegan carnivore, yeah, get it.
So, media right there. And next up, it needs to have a big mission, right? What's our Occupy Mars? It's giving back and solve fertility crisis. So all the sperm gets donated. Incels finally have a rebrand. They go from involuntary celibate to voluntary in training. They're just in training. They're just, right? And so we're giving a whole population a new hope to make something of their life. And I think
This
that's
is
just,
the intermittent fasting of skipping breakfast, right? Like, you know, it used to be the like irresponsible, lazy thing to do to skip breakfast, and now it became intermittent fasting. That's what you're about to do for incels. They're about to become, you know, they're actually just heads down training.
yeah, exactly.
And if you take another step further, at the end of the race, there could be an actual egg. And they
Ooh.
become, I'm telling you,
Become a father.
hey, the greatest gift on earth.
Well, this is what I wanted to add. You know, I first respect is due. It's a tremendous idea.
I know.
What I think is missing here is you're missing an obvious angle. I read recently, producer, not Jamie. Can you just Google this real quick? I think every horse in the Kentucky Derby now is a descendant of Secretariat, the legendary horse,
Okay.
because that sperm was so valuable. Like, what do horses? What do elite horses? You know, So every horse at this year's Kentucky Derby was a descendant of Secretariat. The only horse, I think, to win the Triple Crown in the last maybe ever. I don't know. I don't really watch a lot of horse racing, but isn't that incredible? The horses at the Kentucky Derby are the most valuable horses in the world, and they're all they're all offspring of one horse. And so imagine if Asher just, you know, rises to that level as Secretariat, how much he would be able to fetch for that sperm, right? How much is Elon's sperm actually worth? How much is elite sperm worth? I think is something you're really not really factoring into the business model just yet.
I just had a huge idea. The snake guy's sperm. Imagine how it wiggles through the track. Do you think it's?
Venom definitely helps.
I mean, it must have adapted snake-like.
100%.
Like maybe the tail is longer.
100%.
Wow. It's funny
Well,
how
honestly,
when you look.
Okay, look. I just took a microbiome test, or I just like signed up for like a microbiome gut health. You've been hearing about gut health. I've been hearing a lot about gut health for a few years now. Microplastics. Oh, I gotta check that stuff out. Don't you think people are gonna just want to know their I think the scientific term is motility. Don't you think they're gonna want to know their sperm motility? Just even not to race, right? Just to know, right? Just the recreational man. What does he want to know? And I think that's where you reach, you know, the mass market here of people who are never going to go pro in sperm racing, but just they want to know where they stand.
Yeah, it's like benching 2 plates.
I mean, listen, when you do this, then we can create a channel called My First Billion.
Wow.
I'm just saying.
Wow. There's a YouTube idea. So, when can we make this happen, Sean?
Well, I think it's already happened. I think the sperm race guys are kind of already doing this.
No,
It's
but I
probably
mean the
maybe
whole
my
plan
only-
with you buying.
Yeah.
Well, the Milk Road angle, I don't see it. I didn't really understand. Is that just to change the name to Milk Race? Because they could also just change the name to Milk Race. So I think that part was a little half-baked.
Wow.
There really wasn't any other reason that my crypto newsletter should buy this.
Sean,
brand.
that's a little negative. I thought that was a pretty genius
Oh,
plan.
sorry. We had brainstorm mode. No bad ideas.
Yeah, I thought.
Some people are just not built for
I get
a
it.
$1 trillion business.
I get it. I get it. I guess just difference between millions and
I
billions.
still have that billion mindset.
Yeah.
I just-
It's okay, Sean. Hey, we respect you. Again, we get it. It's okay. We'll just.
still.
Yeah.
I can grow. I can do better. I can do better.
Cool.
So before we move on, you know, if hot dog eating contests became a thing, right? Kobayashi, Joey Chestnut. The fact that I know those two names, that alone means this is not like unreasonable that this would become a thing that you see on ESPN.
I think it'll pick up traction within the next couple of years. 100%.
If they stick with it. I think they might have just been doing this as a stunt, and I really hope they stick with it.
And then if they have enough people like us doing stuff like this, it's definitely gonna pick up.
Well, I think there's more and more weird sports like this popping up. Like there's one thing I saw. I think it's also a one-off thing. It was like a pillow fighting championship. Do you see that?
No.
Yeah. So I think there's a lot of that stuff popping up. But
Okay, guys, I've been seeing this thing a lot, and I need honest opinion because I can't help but judge, but I don't want to judge. The athletes that ride the horses on the stick. Have you guys not
do
seen
what?
that?
I was like horse pretend.
Horse pretend, but they're actual athletes and they jump. Like she's riding on a stick and she's jumping over things like she's actually on a horse.
Oh, that's just when
No, it's real. There's communities on communities. There's actual.
Okay, but you make fun of it, but what's harder, riding a horse and the horse jumping, or you riding a stick horse, but you have to now jump and clear the hurdles, right? Like, isn't that actually harder?
I'm telling you, that's what I'm saying. I'm judging, but I'm like, I see it. I can't completely deny discredit. See, there it is. Hobby horsing. That's what it is. It takes some level of athleticism. And the comments always roast them, and I'm like, you know what, guys? I guarantee
we need a video.
You won't be able.
A static image. Static image is like just looking at a picture of food. I need a taste.
Go on like YouTube. Go on YouTube and just look at the
Oh,
competition.
she's young. Oh wow, it's a youth sport.
I'm telling you, it's a real thing. Look at that.
Oh my God.
Germany.
No.
Yeah.
All right.
Wow.
Is that your sister? Who is that?
This is exactly the kind of sport they would do and have in Germany because it's good for the animals, it's better for the environment, whatever.
All right, let's see it. Look at that technique.
Oh, this is just the prancing around
Yeah,
part.
it's the
Okay, that they shouldn't do. They shouldn't do that part.
It's-
I'm gonna put a vote in against that part.
Look at that.
You're making fun of kids now.
No,
These
I'm
are
not.
kids.
But the guys, come on. This is a legitimate. Like, I need somebody.
If you do something like this, you're
Sean, Leon, I can't be the only one going through this by myself. I need some support.
There's also Quidditch, real life Quidditch, right? Have you seen
Yeah.
that? Yeah, it's similar to this one, I guess. But yeah, I mean, whatever floats people's boats, whatever rides their brooms.
That's wild.
There's one other crossover that we have, Sean. You've been in touch with Jimmy Donaldson, with MrBeast, a bunch of times. And he's actually someone early on in my YouTube journey. I was one of the many, many people that he reached out to, and I just got a random message from him on Instagram, and I'm like, hey, I like your stuff. Here's my number. Call me. And I was like, wait, really? No, that can't be. And I had multiple really intense conversations with him early on in my YouTube career, and then he just got so busy that, we lost touch. But it was.
What was the call? So let's ring. What happened?
MrBeast?
Oh, hey, Jimmy, is this you? Wait, who's Jimmy now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's up, man?
Yeah. Great to get your message.
And then what did he say?
Oh, he.
You're gonna have to
come
do
on.
both, 'cause
How are you
you
gonna
were the only
start-
one there.
Sean,
So like,
how are you gonna start
if
this?
I role play here, I'm not gonna actually find out the thing I want to know, which is what did he say to you. I'm gonna take it in a very different direction.
So, I was surprised by how intense he is, but then I was like, of course he's this intense. But I think when you watch his videos, his brand is usually like, oh, he's like this really fun guy, and like, I don't know how I'm getting so many views. Haha, I'm just giving away money. But like, he's a savage. And just talking to him, my mind was blown. And just anytime I've talked to him, I just felt like I felt so small, but in a good way, in a way where I'm like, wow, there's so much possible. And
Was he asking you questions? You're asking him questions?
He was-
Because they say whoever's asking the questions controls the conversation. So who was in the driver's seat?
he had more dominance in the sense that when I asked him a question, he's like, no, I don't care about that. I want to hear about you. And he actually did give me some really good stuff around hiring. And he was like, yeah, I've built this company like so many times. I had to like shut things down and build them up again. Like there's certain things I don't want to share because I don't know how public it is and I want to respect it. But he was telling me how he set up the company, and like you need a head of creative, you need a head of production, you need this, you need that. And like he has like, I think at the time he had like 7 disciples. And those are the people that he talks to all the time, and they just own an entire department. And he's like, anyone can take this position, but they're gonna have massive expectations, and most people just crack under the pressure. But when they make it happen, I don't care how much history they have, how much experience and whatnot. If they get the results, they get paid like tens of thousands of dollars per month. And yeah, it was just really inspiring. And then I remember one conversation I had with him. I just wanted to come prepared with something valuable for him. And I told him about this podcast called How to Take Over the World.
You told him about that.
Yes.
Amazing.
And later on, I saw them do the interview and stuff like that. And he was like, yeah, my producer told me about it. I'm like, that's not true. I told him about it. But he was like, fuck yeah, this is exactly what I've been looking for. And since then, I think then they got in touch with you guys, right? And you've had MFM camp. And I think you've been in touch with him? Like, what's your relationship with him now? Are you still?
Yeah, so the story, I guess, is you told me the part I didn't know. You told him about How to Take Over the World, which is a podcast hosted by our buddy Ben Wilson. Ben, at the time, was the producer of my podcast. So he was getting his podcast off the ground, and he was producing our podcast. And so Jimmy liked his podcast. Jimmy got in touch with him. He asked him what he does. He was like, oh, I'm the producer for My First Million. So he followed us on Twitter. I then tweet out one time that here's what I want to do. I like meeting other business people, but I hate conferences. So here's the conference of my dreams. And I basically tweeted out something like, I want to host a basketball camp for grown-ups. And it'll be like 2 or 3 days. We'll get an NBA skills trainer. We just hoop all day, talk business at night. And like, that would be a lot of fun. And I put out a form of anybody who would want to sign up. And I see on the form, it's like email, Twitter handle, what are you supposed to put in? And one of them was at MrBeast, and then it was like his email address was like some like Yahoo or AOL email address, and I was like, okay, whatever, that's a hoax. Next day, so I don't even pay attention to it. Next day, he DMs me, and he's like, so are we doing this or what? And I was like, oh, what? That was you? That was for real? I didn't even know he followed me. And so I was like, yeah, not only are we doing this, where do you live? He's like, oh, I live out in North Carolina in this like small city. And I was like, what do you know? We're doing it there. We'll see you in a couple months. And so we then planned it around him, just to make it like easier for him to like not flake, basically. Because we have a really great business network, but he was kind of unique because I don't know a ton of YouTubers, and I found him to be an interesting guy. So I was interested in having him be like at the event. So I was like, okay, we'll do it where he lives, and that's where I went to college. So I was like, let's go there. And so, every year we do this basketball camp together. So we're friends. We don't talk every day or anything like that, but he's awesome. And I learned a bunch from him over time. He's a character. He's like one of these. It's like when you meet a Mark Zuckerberg and they're 22 years old or 24 years old, and like they're just built a little bit different and they operate differently, and they're just like they're a bit of a different species, and not totally different, but like. There's something different about this breed of person. And like you said, the phone call was intense. I think that's a good way to describe it. Like, he's intense about not in a mean way or anything like that. He's just intense in his like ambition and his like thirst for like entertainment and knowledge and doing cool things. He just has like a very low tolerance for wasting time or bullshit or like small talk or small think. He doesn't like small talk or small think. Yes.
There's one thing he told me. He was like, "Oh, let me just get my AirPods real quick. I actually have a whole box ready." Like, he had a whole like tray full of them.
Just like a new AirPod.
So that he doesn't have to look for it, because sometimes he loses it and he has to look for it. So he just like opens a new one and just like pops it in.
Yeah, he's definitely like, have you ever seen the movie? You guys might be a little young for this, but there's this movie back in the day called Richie Rich. And it was about this kid who was like wealthy, and because he was like, I think like his parents were gone, like his parents had died, and he was wealthy, so it was kind of like the kid was running the show, and he had all the resources in the world, and so he would, he just like any decision that made sense to him as a kid, he just did. So he like built a McDonald's play place in his house, and he would like, eat like chocolate bars for breakfast. It's like, what would a kid do? A kid would think that's the move, and so in a way, that's kind of happened to Jimmy, where like. He runs his kingdom, and because he runs his kingdom, he's done all these really interesting, innovative things that like kind of aren't standard practice. Like you were talking about his disciples. So for example, like he would, when he hired somebody, he'd be like, all right, you're just my shadow now. You're just going to follow me around 24/7. And like, for him, 24/7 is like more like actually 24/7. Like it's not like, oh, I work Monday through Friday, 9 to 5. It's like on Saturday, like we would do something on Saturday night at 9 p.m. The person's there, and like, they might have a family at home, but like they're here always. And he was like, yeah, you're going to shadow me until you know how I think. And then when you know how I think, you can now then do the things, and I don't have to be there because you know how I think anyways. And like, that was his training method, which like, a normal company would have like a very different training program and like, some instructional videos and like some other bullshit. Right. So like, in some ways, his very simplistic thinking and his kind of like, well, I don't know any better, so I'm just going to do whatever makes sense to me, has led him to really good spots. And then I think it's also in some cases led him to like, make some mistakes along the way where maybe experience would have helped him. but the dude is learning at such a fast rate that, like, you know, whoever he was a year ago, he's a whole different animal now. And you just play that forward. I think he's only 25, 26 years old now. Like, by the time he's 30, you know, he's going to have the experience of somebody with like 50 years of experience. And he's only been, you know, doing it for whatever, you know, 15 or something.
Dude, imagine you can see the future and find out which YouTuber or which like athlete is gonna be the next big thing. Imagine how valuable that'd be, and then just like supporting them on that journey. Like, imagine how many people that know MrBeast now that would have known he was gonna be this savage before, that would have been like, hey. Or imagine how many people like he tried to reach out to that said no to him, and now they're looking back and they're being like, damn.
But even then, even if you knew, all right, this guy's going to be really, really successful at YouTube, you really wouldn't have even still, like, what would you have done? What would you have done with that information? Because I think at the time, if you think about it, if you go back, the most successful YouTubers, like, he's a billionaire. There wasn't billionaire YouTubers 10 years ago. So even if you knew, which was like, he's been doing this for 15 plus years now, even if you knew 15 years ago that this kid is going to become like, you know, one of the great YouTubers, you wouldn't have known that that means there's $1 billion business underneath. You wouldn't have known the scale of how big that could get. Because I think at the time, you know, a big YouTuber might get millions of views on a video. He now gets 200, 300 million views on a video. You know, he's like one of the most recognized people in the world. So even if you knew, I don't think you would also need to know how big of a deal YouTube is, which I think was not obvious to a lot of people for a very long time. In the same way that podcasts kind of snuck up on people, where, you know, podcasting has been around since like early 2000s, like 2001, 2002, 2003. Like, I was listening to a podcast, you know, back in like 2005. It's now 2025, so 20 years. But when I started my podcast 5 years ago, that was 15 years in, and it still seemed like a cute little side thing. I didn't think of it like, this is going to be my new career and my launch pad, and I'm going to make millions of dollars from this. I had no idea. And then when it happens, it sort of surprises you. And I was still like really late in the game. So I think not only did you need to scout that he was good, you'd have to know that being a YouTuber would be such a big deal, which I don't think was true at the time.
But I think in 2013, I think, because that's when when did David Dobrik really blow up?
No idea. I never really watched it, but I would guess 2017.
Really? That late? Because
maybe 2016?
Because early on, like during the Vine days, a lot of these YouTubers were still making a lot of money. Because one of my friends was a famous Viner, and as soon as Vine, he lost his whole entire.
What was a lot of money then?
Because I remember, I remember like a couple of like 50 to 100K a month.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they're making less than $1 million a year.
This is like a different level with Jimmy now.
Yeah.
I think
he's worth multiple billions of dollars, right? So it's like, that's what I'm saying. It's an order of magnitude, 2 orders of magnitude difference. And like, you know, I know this guy, Taylor. And Taylor, I think he's talked about this on our podcast before, or maybe we talked about him, but he had a sock company and was like, you know what? This is like back in the day. He's like, he was making custom socks. And he's like, oh, I know. He's like, I don't know how to promote my sock company. I don't know anything about marketing, but I know that these YouTubers or Viners are getting really popular. And he noticed that Logan Paul, Jake Paul, all these famous Vine stars at the time, he noticed that the doors in their videos all had the same handle. So he's like, I think they live in the same building. And so he figured out which building it was in LA, and he moved to LA and rented a unit, like the smallest unit in that building, and started hanging out in the gym all the time. And Logan and Jake would come down and they'd work out all the time. And what's his name? King Batch or whatever. They would all work out every day, and he would be there every day. And he kind of like buddied up with them, and then was like, hey, Logan, like, I'd love to do your custom merch. Your merch kind of sucks right now, or you don't have socks, you don't have hoodies. Like, you should do that. And he did like the first merch run with Logan Paul. And he made like, you know, whatever. They did like, you know, $2 million in sales or something like that. Everybody thought it was like the craziest thing in the world. And so he kind of had the right idea, but even with the right idea that these guys are you know, popular or going to blow up, like that still wasn't enough to like really take advantage of the true opportunity with this stuff.
I see what you mean.
Which, like, you know, in Jimmy's case right now, and he's I don't think he's even at the peak of the peak, but like now the peak of the peak right now is like you create a consumer brand, right? So you create Feastables. You create, you know, whatever, Chamberlain Coffee. You create, you know, Crunch Labs, the subscription box. And now these guys have figured out like, oh, that can like take us to the next level. But there's even levels that are going to come beyond that.
Beast Games as well.
I've seen a lot of creators launch their own products, and I see it again and again where it just fails. They think because they have the traffic, then like, oh, I have all this traffic, but it's like you're starting a whole new business that you need to learn from scratch. And and in the self-improvement niche, what I see a lot is that they start launching a paid community or a course or something like that, and then they just can't keep up with running both that and the channel, and then usually the channel ends up dying over the next few years.
Right.
And I don't know how Jimmy makes it work, but I think it's just
Well, again, he's a freak. Like, we went with him to Walmart, and he's like showing us where the chocolate is. And I thought it's like an influencer. They're like, "Hi, you know my face. Buy this," and then they put it down and they walk away. And like their manager just hands them shit. Like, "Hey, pick this one up. Okay, buy this." And I just thought that's how influencer products worked at that level of fame. Like, it's like, Michael Jordan would hold up a Gatorade bottle. I just thought it was at that level of involvement. Even Jordan brand shoes. Like, sure, they would like invite him in a couple times a year to like the design meeting, and he would tell them what he likes and what he doesn't like. But like Jordan ran the company. Nike ran the company. They just used his name. They licensed the name off of him. I went to Walmart with this guy, and like literally while we're talking, he's restocking all the shelves. He knows everything about every SKU. He has a badge to go in the back of Walmart to restock his own product if he needs to, and he's done that. Like, he's been to like 50 retail locations he's so like intimately involved with the operations and the knowledge about like, he's like, yeah, we're changing from this size to this size because that we realize that the buyer on the floor of Walmart who manages this aisle is different than the buyer at the front desk where you get the minis, and so we needed to have different SKUs for that, and like the level of detail. I met the guy, probably 3-4 years ago now. At that time, he was like, "Oh, I'm Jimmy. I do a bunch of stuff. I have a chocolate brand, blah, blah, blah." And now it's like, I don't know if there's 5 people on earth who know more about the chocolate business than this guy. I would bet that there are not 5 people on earth. And and those people are not also the biggest YouTuber in the world. Their only job is chocolate. He's the biggest YouTuber in the world and knows more about chocolate than any of the chocolate companies. It's insane.
Well, I think you said it yourself. You're like, when he had the 7 disciples that were following him around doing everything that he did, and they learned everything from him. I think that's the one thing that I see with the businesses that I work with. The number one skill that a lot of entrepreneurs struggle with is delegation. And it's like, how do I take my brain and put it into yours? And I think if you can do that successfully, consistently, then you can actually let somebody run the thing you're running right now. You can focus on a whole new business. And I think that's what makes successful entrepreneurs successful. Because the reality is that they can't make a replicatable process that is simple and dumbed down enough for somebody to actually just take it and copy it and take it to the next level.
I think that his is even at a different level. I think the number one skill, or one of the, I shouldn't say number one because it's like, I could say that for so many things, but one of the big skills of Jimmy is hiring and just his ability to build a team. And I think he's built a level of team where he doesn't do anything with process or systems. I don't know, but the people he hires, they're just entrepreneurs in his business, and he coaches them. He coaches how to think and instills this savage mindset that he has in this culture of like no excuses. I mean, you've seen the leaked document as well, right? Like that was a masterclass.
I'm not sure that that's true. I've come out and visited him every year for the last 3 or 4 years, and there's different people every time I'm there, right? Like I don't think that's. I think he churns through a lot of people because very few people can keep up with the pace. I think what he does is not that he hires great people and delegates to them. I think he pushes straight forward ahead like a heat-seeking missile, and either you're on board and you're helping and you make it happen, or you fly off and a new person gets on board and they help make it happen. But he is just pushing at a rate that nobody else pushes, and goes deepper than I think anybody else goes. He's got a few trusted people for sure that like he trusts to do X, Y, and Z. But when I live in Silicon Valley, there's a lot of companies here you look at and you say, wow, it's amazing. They really built an organization. This is an organization. It's not the CEO isn't making product decision, isn't involved in this. They're not even aware of this stuff. They sit at the top of the board, at the boardroom table, at the top floor of the office. They don't really know what's going on at the low levels. That's not what I see when I go to his place, but that's not a knock on him either. I think, I just can't believe he's got the energy to do it. That's the amazing thing.
Yeah. I think,
by the way, did I sidetrack your podcast and start talking about business?
No, this is perfect. We want both. We want both. So this is great. I think the ability or the willingness to let go of people, new one. Let go of people, new one. Like, who's going to survive this? That's part of this, the hiring skill. Like he told me about a 12-month period they had in the business where they hired a bunch of people from TV and that had They had experience and all that. And then 12 months later, they let go of everyone and started basically built the team from scratch again, like that whole department. And he learned so much from it. And just the willingness to do that, I think. Yeah, but I think you put it right. Like he's just a heat-seeking missile, and just like either you're on board or you fall off.
And he's constantly taking risks. As you can, if you hear in his videos, he constantly takes all the money and reinvests it in his videos. So he's like always in the beginning. I feel like he was always going back to zero. I think it was a video where he was talking to his mom, and he's like, he just made like $150,000. And he's like, yeah, I'm gonna reinvest it in my next video. She's like, aren't you gonna save anything? He's like, no. Like, we're just not gonna do that. I'm gonna keep $10,000 so I can do what I need to do for my life and my bills, but the rest is going back in the video. And he just constantly has done that over and over and over again. And I think that for me is the most impressive thing, because you're just constantly willing to bet on yourself every single time.
So I think a lot of people say that, and very few people actually do it. Like Elon is one who's obviously did it. He sold. When PayPal sold, I think he got something like $180 million, and then ended up putting, I don't know the exact math, but it was like something like 60 into Tesla, something like, 100 into SpaceX, and then like 20 into Solar City, and was like, cool, can I crash on your couch now? I don't have any money. I don't have any cash. And so, that's like, I live in the place of all the freaks. I live in Silicon Valley. This is like the most ambitious, wealthy, creative, technical people in the world are here. What does Rogan say? Like uncommon amongst uncommon men. That about David Goggins. That's kind of like an Elon. I think Jimmy's the same way, where it's easy to say, believe in yourself, bet on yourself, reinvest, but like to that level, all right, that's like a very different level. And I'll give you a quick story. So I was talking to this investor here, and he was looking at investing in MrBeast's company. And I think the leaked online stuff, so this is just what's out there publicly, I don't know if this is true or not, let's just use the public number, was that it's a $5 billion valuation for his company. And so he was like, he's like, I really like what he's doing. He's obviously an impressive guy, but it's already at $5 billion. I just don't know if it's a good investment. And he goes, what do you think? And I said, well, I think I'm going to invest. And he goes, what's your kind of thesis? I go, oh, it's really simple. I can explain it to you in the next 2 seconds. Jimmy's one of the most talented people I've ever met, and to him, $5 billion is a small number. And it kind of, I almost didn't even really realize my case to myself at the time, but it is very true for most of us, me included, but almost everybody, every YouTuber. If if tomorrow Hershey's came to him and offered $5 billion for Feastables, 99.9% of people are taking that deal. Jimmy's not thinking for a second about that. Like to him, if this ends at $5 billion, that would be a disappointment to him. So you take the most talented person who's like really super fast learner, super hardworking, balls to the wall in terms of their intensity. But then the most important last variable is the standard they have for themselves. And for him, $5 billion would be a disappointment if that's where this ended. So you can almost always invest in somebody who's like, they have the horsepower at the elite level. And to them, this would be small. That's actually a very important thing. And it made me realize that one of the big arbitrages of life, and this is kind of to your self-development things, I think one of the most powerful self-development ideas that I haven't really heard talked about very much is one of the great differences in life and people is just what they are willing to accept in their life, what they're willing to tolerate for themselves. And so, you might sometimes I'll meet a really talented person, and I'll offer them a job, and they're like, wow, this is amazing. And other times I meet a really talented person, and to them, the idea, no matter how amazing my job is, the idea of working for somebody else would be a disappointment for them. They want to be an entrepreneur. And the talent difference between those two people is really nothing. And they're both going to work hard. They're both going to work 8 to 10 hours a day. They're going to give it their all. But the second person is simply not willing to accept not building their own successful business. That would be it would be a disappointment to them if their life ended up where that wasn't true. And the first person was totally happy to accept not doing that. And I'm not saying one is better than the other. What I'm saying is that difference of just what you're willing to accept in your life makes a huge difference. My wife is like this with very little things. If we're going to host a party or, we're making our little invitations. For me, I'm like, good enough is good enough. And for her, good enough is not good enough. She's just simply not willing to accept that as that's below her standard of what she does. And so she'll always do more, and she'll always take it further, and she'll always have a better result than me in life and in that area of life. And I just find that very interesting. I now see it everywhere. I just see it when I see people. It's like, oh, like at a health level, you could tell by people's body what they're willing to accept. You could tell by people's finances what they're willing to accept. And it's not so much that they don't work hard or that they don't have intelligence or talent. Those things are pretty similar in a lot of people. But what is not similar is people's standard for themselves. Give me your thoughts on that.
I think that's so powerful. And I love the way you broke it down. So like, let me ask you, let's double down on this. Do you think that's something that's developed, or do you think that's something that's innately in you?
I don't know. I pretty much always lean on the side of it's a skill. Everything's a skill. I might be wrong, but it's way better to believe that everything's a skill than to believe that everything is just innate. Like I just refuse. What good does that do me? Yeah. That's a pretty disempowering belief to have. And if we don't know, I'm going to err on the side of the belief that gets me to take action and do things. And so I for sure think it's a choice.
Yeah.
And I actually do see it in myself. Like there was a long period of my life where I was just floating by. I was just average. I was just doing things whatever came my way. And then I over time have developed that. Now, whether that was genetics blooming late, I don't know. Maybe it was. Maybe it was my genetics just blossoming at 22 instead of at age 5. But I think really more it was I got around different people. I started reading different things. I started looking at examples of what was possible. I started meeting people and realizing they're not that much more talented than me. They didn't have that much more experience than me when they started. So if they figured it out, maybe I could too. And then I started stacking some wins, stacking some evidence, and getting some momentum. And then I started to believe, and that starts the victorious flywheel. So the vicious cycle is you don't believe, so you don't take a lot of action, and then you get shitty results, and you say, see, I knew it. And then the victorious cycle is basically the opposite. You believe a bunch, so you take a bunch of action. And when you take massive action, you start to see results. You go, yep, I knew it works. I believe even more. I'm going to take even more action. And you're going to go down one of those two cycles.
Yeah. I think I think it's good to hold both beliefs and tap into them whenever you need to. Because the older I get, the more I realize I'm just built for certain things and not for other things. And a lot of it is just how I popped out of the womb, And so there are a lot of people who believe in themselves and they think they can do anything. And they've been a waiter for 10 years in LA thinking they're going to be an actor, and they just don't have the it factor. They don't have the looks, and just you're just not going to be an actor. Right. And so it's good to have both. I heard this recently about hiring. You want to hire with a fixed mindset and lead with a growth mindset. And I think it's similar with when you're choosing a life partner. When you're considering a woman as your wife, you want to go, if she doesn't change at all, can I love her until death does us do us part? And then once you're in a relationship, you still want to lead as if, hey, this person can totally change. And most people don't change, but sometimes they do. So.
Yeah, I think it's there's win-win. So I think about win-win and win-lose. So if sometimes I'll decide to go into a situation. I'll give you an example. I worked on this presentation for the last couple weeks. I was kind of deep in this. I was doing a bunch of research. I decided I want to make this presentation and give this talk. And there's a version of this that I thought, wow, if this goes really well, this talk could go viral. That would be really cool. Maybe that turns into a book, or maybe I'll meet some cool people because they'll really like what I made and they'll reach out, or maybe I'll really make a name for myself this way. There's all these possible wins. And same thing with when I started my podcast. Wow, it'd be really cool if my podcast got popular like Tim Ferriss or Joe Rogan. Wouldn't that be awesome? And then I could just do this for a living, and that would be really cool, and blah, blah, blah. But then there's sort of what you said, the fix. Assume it doesn't all play out that way. Assume the result, assume the part that's not in your control doesn't go how you want. Doesn't mean it needs to go horribly. Just assume some base case. And when you assume that, you say for my podcast, I literally wrote this on a doc, which is cool because I have my thought process at the time I made the decision written out for me. And I said, the dream would be I wake up and 1 million people are listening to. I said I'm in their earballs in the morning. I'm just in 1 million people's ears in the morning. That would be cool. If I just got paid for my thoughts, that would be an amazing career to have. I don't know if I could have that, but that would be an amazing career to have. I said, well, all right, base case is nobody listened to it except for my mom. But I think I could definitely get a bunch of people to guest on my podcast. It'd be a cool excuse to hang out with those people for an hour. A lot more fun than saying, hey, can I take you to coffee or can I pick your brain? It's like, no, I think just inviting them on my podcast would be a more fun excuse to hang out with these 100 people. And I would become a better conversationalist and maybe a better thinker because I'm trading ideas with people who I think are really interesting. And so I was like, oh, that's win-win. I either win small or I win big. But both of them are called wins. And then there's other things I go into in life where it's just like, ooh, if this works, it's going to be awesome. And then you ask the question, well, what if all those awesome things don't happen? Is it still a win? It's like, no, then I'd kind of regret even doing the stupid thing in the first place. And I've started a lot of businesses like that. It's like a business I wouldn't enjoy running. Maybe it's a business that's purely opportunistic. I think I can make a buck if I do this. But if it doesn't work out, I'm like, I kind of wish I would have just done something else because it wouldn't be like that's not fun for me to do. I'm really only doing this because I think it might be successful. And those are like win-lose trades. I've realized that in a lot of life, you could just err on the side of win-win trades, which are basically like you're either going to win small or you win big. But those are your two possible outcomes because of you're going to have fun when you do it. The skills you're going to pick up and the people you're going to hang out with will make it worth it, even if the result isn't exactly how you want.
Yeah, I meet that decision all the time now with this new channel that I started, which is for a reason. I was like, hey, let me get into podcasting because it was just not sustainable. It was like the videos I was making, I was like, putting up a billboard to find a girlfriend or like training with Navy SEALs. I put my laziest friend through Navy SEAL training. And then the next video had to be something else that's crazy. And I'm like, I don't want to keep doing this. And I was having all these experiences where I was interviewing people. I was like at Brian Johnson's house and all that cool stuff. But everything had to be like filmed properly and tons of editing. And I'm like, I don't want to do this long term. And I think it's the only way to win long term is you gotta love it or you love pain. Like there's some people they can just endure so much pain, and I have in that sense I have a low pain tolerance, which I think is really good. Like I know people who have a high long term pain tolerance where they can just
Totally.
Yeah, and it goes the other way too, where they have a high pain tolerance for mediocrity. Like they're just like miserable and they can just
or bad relationships. Or,
exactly.
Or dead ends, or suffering, and just like continuing to feel not how they want to feel, but they're willing to feel it for a longer period of time.
So then let me ask you guys a question. You guys both have met MrBeast. Do you think his main value or core value is purpose? Living like a long-term legacy, because he talks about it like he mentioned in one video he doesn't really care about mental health. He's like I feel like shit, but I don't care. I'm gonna keep pushing through. So the reality is like, what are you putting as your top value? And it's like, because I mean the reality,
Winning. It's just winning.
Winning, yeah, it's the game. It's like
He's a game player. This is a game, and he wants to win, and he just loves winning.
whatever.
And I'm not saying that's good or bad. It's not a judgment.
Yeah.
I think he literally even said that. Like he's like, I think he just told me that the last time we were hanging out. And he's like, that's what I give a shit about, and everything is built around that, and that's what I want to do.
Yeah. Same thing with Elon Musk. I mean, Elon Musk was also obsessed with games like Polytopia. I don't know if you've ever tried it out. Like we talked about it on the podcast, Polytopia. So fun. And business is just another strategy game. That's just the most.
Yeah, for Elon, it's kind of interesting. I don't know if it's winning in the same way. I sort of suspect he likes being a superhero.
Yeah. I think he wants to make it into history books too. Yeah.
Yeah, I think he wants to save. I think he likes being the savior. And the reason why is you don't look at the big things, you look at the little things, the things he didn't have to do. So remember when those kids were like stuck in a cave and he's like, hey, SpaceX team, let's make a submarine to whatever. And then somebody was like, hey, we don't really need that. We're going to just do this other thing. And then he got really pissed and called him a pervert or something like that.
Yeah.
Just he doesn't really like when other people save the world.
Yes.
Right. It's like in Silicon Valley, HBO, the show, and there's a great line when Gavin Belson, the guy who's running Hulu, which is like Google in the show. And he's like, do you really want to live in a world where somebody else makes the world a better place?
He said that.
It's so true. We want this problem to be solved, but we want to be the one who solves it. That's kind of important in my enjoyment of this thing. Very few people I think are truly benevolent to the point where they just care if it happens and they're just as happy if somebody else did it, if versus them trying to do it.
Dude, I love this because recently I was brought this video and this like. So I've been studying. I don't want to make this like esoteric or philosophical.
Oh, here we go.
Oh, okay.
Go for it. Go all the way.
Listen. I study the spiritual.
Are you going to tell them about teledipity?
No, not teledipity. Forget about teledipity. I'm talking about like, I love understanding the ancient histories and the ancient scripture and all that stuff. So like the Hermetic principles, the Kabbalion, the Kabbalah. And one of the things I've been studying the Kabbalah recently.
I don't know any of the words you're
Beautiful.
saying.
Anyways, bottom line is one of the lessons they were teaching. He was basically talking about the fact he was like, let's say that you went to the UN and you had a 20-page basically script or speech on how to solve all the world's problems, and you got handed $100 billion to basically solve them, and everything was great. And in an hour, you were going to go on CNN and you were going to basically present this case to the world to basically, and after you presented, everybody was going to clap their hands and say, yeah, you did it. Amazing. I'm proud of you, whatever, yada, yada, yada. But an hour before you did that, the Messiah came down and basically solved the world's problems. Like, yeah, you know what? Don't worry about it. You don't have to go on CNN. Then the guy's like, well, no. Hold up. I still want to go on CNN and present my case. Can he just come back like 2 hours after? Like after I presented, then he come down and save the world? So he basically ponders a question is like, do you genuinely want to save the world for you? Or do you want these actual problems to disappear? And the reality is when you ask yourself, like how many of us actually are doing the things because we actually want the change in the world or within ourselves? But how many of us want to be the savior or want to be the hero for our own egotistical needs? Like, I just want to look good. I don't really give a fuck about the world. I just want the world to be like, hey, look how great I am. Acknowledge me. Tell me I'm great. Validate me. So it kind of goes back to what you guys were kind of talking about in that sense.
Yeah, 100%. And it's not that everybody's nefarious. It's just that maybe one thing matters a little more than the other, right?
That's exactly
like-
what a villain would
Or
say.
like, I need both.
It's,
You know,
just
like,
hey, it's just that I just cared about this a little bit more than this other thing.
yeah, exactly.
But,
Like
yeah.
you guys were saying you're going to have like a Guru of the Week section on here or something like that. I'll give you an example. So I don't know if this is the guy you're going to pick or not, but I think Hormozy is a good example here. So Hormozy's blown up on YouTube, and he's like, my mission... he said something on my podcast that was like, I don't know if he was just workshopping it or what, but he was like, he's like, our mission is to like make change the way that I don't want to paraphrase it wrong, but it was something along the lines of make it so that employees who go to work have like a positive experience in some way. And I was just like, I don't believe for a second that's the mission of your company, acquisition.com. Like, I think the point of acquisition.com is to acquire companies, make a ton of money, win the game of business, feel good as you win the game of business, and continue winning at a bigger level than you previously won the game of business, right? Like, I think that's more true. If I think, here's a simple test. Let's assume I could do the employee harmony thing, but you don't make any money. You gonna do it? Or what if I gave you all that money, but I told you the employee harmony thing didn't happen? Would you take it? I think you'd take it, right? Like, I think you'd take that outcome. Or if I gave you both outcomes, which path would you go in? Which door would you go through? The no money, but my employees, blah, 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 I made some mission change. And I think since then, like, for example, with his content, I wish if I knew we were going to talk about this, I could have pulled up what he actually said, because that's sort of important in the story I just told. But I think a more probably like straightforward version of this is, he makes a lot of content on YouTube. He's like, my goal is to help business owners. He's like, to make the business education free and available to any business owner in the world. Awesome. And I think, by the way, his content, I think, does help with that, right? I think he is doing that. So I don't think he's like not doing that. However, again, it's like, also, I make content for business owners who then like, listen, and trust me, and then will give me access to their company, like sell their company or a piece of their company to me at more favorable terms than a normal PE shop. And I'm going to acquire a portfolio of those companies. And this is my lead gen at the top of the funnel for my private equity company, which is what his company is, acquisition.com, which again, more power too. That's a fantastic model. I have no hate on that. However, I think just like as a thought experiment, as we're talking about like what, kind of having these like dueling motives. It's like, I'm pretty sure which one is more important than the other, but I think it's fantastic that you're able to do both and have both outcomes happen. So, it's not even like a good versus evil thing. It's just like, I do think there is a more honest versus less honest version. And I think a lot of people err on the side of the less honest versions of their true motivations around why they do what they do. He started out with every video, I'm Alex Mosey, I have nothing to sell you. And now he's constantly selling me his books, his workshops for $5,000. And then, it's not like, what happened to that? Wait, what happened? I didn't understand.
It's a tough brand change to make for sure. And I think it was bound to happen.
And again,
but yeah,
he's totally allowed to do that, and it's totally fine to do that.
Yeah.
I just think it's also like, if we're having an honest conversation about like people's motives, then I think it's good to just kind of recognize that, like, at face value, what people say their mission is, I would say in my experience, tends to not be genuine in terms of it being their top actual priority.
Yeah, when you hear the sob story of any company that just launched, like, my sister, she was bullied in school, and so I started this company. It's like, no, you
my
saw
friend
an
started.
opportunity.
You know the deodorant brand Native Deodorant.
Mm-hmm.
My buddy Moyes started Native Deodorant, and if you go hear the backstory of his company, it's my sister was pregnant, and I don't know if she had a medical issue or he was worried about her medical issues. He saw how many chemicals were in the deodorant that she was using, and he wanted to create a natural, chemical-free deodorant for his sister who was pregnant. A pregnant woman. Save a pregnant woman. Amazing. Actually, my buddy was sitting next to him in the co-working space every day, and what he was doing was he was looking at Etsy and saying, what is the top-selling product on Etsy? I don't give a shit what it is. I just want to see, is there a top-selling product on Etsy that has high demand, that is not a category that's already saturated, where the product weighs less than 1 pound, so I'll be able to ship it under the flat rate, under 1 pound shipping rates, and that is a consumable, so I'll have repeat purchases. Oh, deodorant, natural deodorant, got it. It's like the truth versus the story, and hey, it's all good, man. Sometimes don't let the truth get in the way of a good story, but this is super common, and I didn't know that. Kind of growing up, I just really drank the Kool-Aid on a lot of things. And as I got older, I was like, oh, okay, got it. I see what's happening.
Yeah.
I understand.
It's like, when you're 6, you stop believing in Santa Claus. When you're 7, you stop believing in the Easter Bunny. And then when you're 25
26
or something like that, it's like, wait, all these companies, they started from a spreadsheet. That's the origin story of this. I looked at the spreadsheet and I thought, deodorant.
Dude, don't trust marketers, man. We talk about this all the time. Marketers are the vein of my existence.
And by the way, there are a bunch of people who make products just because they think they're cool, or they want to make them, or they make them as a hobby, and then they take off, and that happens all the time as well. But guess what? Those are the people who are the least vocal initially about their grand ambitions and missions. You know what I mean? Those are the people you don't hear from, especially early on, because that's not what they were. They didn't even look at their project like it was going to change the world. So they didn't go around telling everybody how they're going to save the world. They were just working on something they thought was kind of cool. Then other people thought it was cool. Then it started to take off. Right? You look at Minecraft and even early days of Facebook. There's interviews of Zuck on a couch, and they're like, are you going to open this up to high schools now? Because it's spreading like wildfire through colleges. And he's sitting there in basketball shorts with a red Solo cup, and he's like, I don't know, man. Why does it have to grow beyond this? Can it just be a cool college thing?
Wow, that
he's
would be a
he's like, I
different
think that's kind of
timeline.
cool. He was like, I think that's kind of cool that it's just a college thing. Not everything gets better when you make it bigger. And then now it's like the mission is to connect every human on Earth. And they literally put satellites over India to give people in villages in India internet so they can use Facebook. Your ambition changes, your mission changes. It all evolves over time. And the shit you thought at the beginning is probably not the shit that you're doing at the end. And a bunch of things aren't aligned. And at the end of the day, you get fired if you don't increase shareholder value. That's just kind of the reality of a bunch of situations. I don't mean that to be cynical. It's just I think it's more useful when you see things as they really are, rather than how you wish they might be.
Spitting facts.
Yeah, Santa Claus doesn't exist. What I've noticed is there's a lot of marketing people and then there's product people. And it's rare that somebody has both of these skills. If someone's a product person, usually they have a really shitty website. They don't include the sob story, right? And they may actually have one. And this is something I've noticed with health companies or supplement companies, is if they have really good marketing, chances are the product is not that good. And it's the same thing when I did the 40 years of meditation, the 40 Years of Zen.
40, yeah.
So there's Dave Asprey. I don't know if you've heard of him. He's like the biohacker. And he took this program, called it 40 Years of Zen. And it's basically the same program from Biocybernaut Institute. They're the ones who came up with the technology and all that stuff. And like the website is okay. The whole process is weird and just like signing up and all that stuff. But like this is the real stuff. Like this, it's this scientist with this crazy hair who's been doing it for like decades. And yeah, I think. But when you're a product person, you can learn the marketing piece.
Well, was he a product or marketing person?
Product. That guy was product. And then Dave Asprey is the marketing person who's just like, I'm going to take this program, give it a cool name. Yeah, and it goes back to the power of storytelling, right? Which I know you're also really into.
Well, they say like salespeople make millions of dollars, marketers make hundreds of millions of dollars. That's really the idea.
And some product people make
zero
trillions of dollars, like
you're right.
us on this podcast.
Bring it back.
Guru of the Week, we've had him on before. We've featured him before. Have you heard of Dan Pena?
Yeah, he's like kind of. I know who he is. I've seen him before, but I don't know a ton about him.
We're bringing it back.
Yeah, let's look at some clips. So there's some exciting developments. We're currently
You've had him on before as the guru, or as a guest.
as a guru, but we're currently talking to his team to get him on as a guest. So this could be a good warm up. And I'm
That
curious
would be
what
insane.
I'd be curious what questions you would ask him. But let's have a look at his walk-in to his seminars. I don't know if you've seen this, but he's got a QLA seminar. Costs like $20,000.
What is QLA?
Quantum Leap Academy.
Likes you 'cause you are a cunt.
Here's the walk-in.
You are a cunt. You are a cunt. Fuck off and die, you useless cunt.
To me, you're all cunts. And when I say cunt, you're a coward.
So that's how he walks into the seminars. So I'm still confused. I know we've reacted to him before, but I think guys are literally just paying him to wear a suit, go to his castle. He has a castle in Scotland, and just be berated by him. And I think that's his program.
I love it. It's really it. Well,
Yeah,
How
people
much-
love this like masochistic stuff. By the way, this is not different than like the show Billions, where there's like the wealthy, powerful
Yeah.
men of DC like go and be like dominated by women.
is he? Yeah, he's here. Who does he remind you of? Not Axel. Or does he remind you of Axel?
No, I mean he's the dom in this.
Yeah,
case.
yeah, 100%. 100%. Watch that show. That show's incredible.
Yeah, I should watch it. Let's watch the second clip that we have listed here.
But I had a couple of friends who went through it. Yeah, he just spent the whole week yelling at them. And basically, does he give like, he gives
You gotta
some,
break them down before you build them up. you know what I mean?
100%. He gives like some, what is it called? Mergers and acquisition information. But that's
Can
pretty
we
much
go?
it.
Can we go?
You have never met anybody like me, and you probably never will. Because you're a cunt. Where's the vagina cream? I give you this vagina cream so you can rub it on your snatch, because you're all cunts. And everybody you know is a cunt. Don't you understand that? Do you know anybody with any balls whatsoever? Do you know any real men?
So he was also on Joe Rogan, where he was talking about how he killed a bear with his bare hands.
Yeah.
And he stabbed him 50 times.
Is that real?
Well, usually Joe is really good at like calling out BS, but in this case he was like, "Oh wow, Jesus Christ." But yeah, I think so. I also saw a clip of him earlier where he did seminars in like the 1980s or 1990s, and he was just talking normally. So I don't know. I think he's just either he's become like this with age, or this is literally just him working on his methodology. And he's like, hey, I realized that when I berate people and I make them feel like nothing, then they get results.
Well, it's like, what's his name? Wes, whatever the dude.
Yeah, Wes Watson.
Dude, I saw him. I went to a conference, one of those like conferences, because one of the companies I was with had like their stall in like the big whatever. And he was one of the speakers, and all I can hear is somebody just F word after F word after F word after. Like literally there was nothing. It was just him swearing to the audience. And I'm saying like, who the hell is this guy? I've never heard of him. And I saw him, I'm like, why does he, this man's like, I just went to jail. You don't know how it feels to almost get right. I'm like, Jesus Christ, they're like people don't give a fuck about this shit.
Yeah, it's like, how can I get my first few Shopify sales now?
That's it. But he's like, his brand is insane, and he's made millions. And I'm sitting here and I'm like, I don't understand the value that this man is giving. Like, what? He's just yelling at you. He's a big dude with the steroids that like went to jail. I'm like, is that the story? That's all it takes? It doesn't make sense.
Yeah, well, I think these are the gurus that we're usually looking for, right? It's not people who are actually teaching business, but either that or people who are just fascinating, weird characters. And I think there's a big market for it. You know, there's just people think that's what I need. I need motivation. I need.
Let's get their sperm to raise.
I mean, this guy's definitely a scam, right? Like, this guy's a scam.
Well, here's the crazy thing. He lives in a castle in Scotland, which he bought.
That could mean nothing. That could be that costs $0.
Yes, he bought it for £620,000, around $750,000 at the time. Yeah. And when I looked up the background,
that's a studio apartment in San Francisco.
Yeah. Well, that was back in the day.
You can't even get a studio apartment for $650K.
And so in 1982, this is when I asked ChatGPT how he made his money. In 1982, Pena founded Great Western Resources, an oil and gas exploration company with a modest initial investment of $820. Under his leadership, the company expanded significantly, and by 1992 was listed on the London Stock Exchange with a market cap of $450 million.
Yeah.
Do you believe it?
I mean, makes sense, but I think that's what he's been riding on. He had one big exit, and then basically goes and teaches people how to have exits. Because my friends that went through
but even if you're listed at that amount, that doesn't mean that's what you own. That doesn't mean that's what you're able to cash out. That doesn't mean anything. It really, I mean, like, there's a lot of steps between that and being the $1 trillion man.
But you know
he
that.
has a castle.
Yeah, he does have a castle. And Shane, you also have to realize you are
that's
in
how
business.
He gets me. That's how he gets me.
Shane,
but he has a castle.
Shane, you're in business, so you understand what goes into buying a business.
Sean.
You understand what goes into buying a business. So because of that, it throws everything off. Because if you don't know that, then you just look at the $450 million. You're like, all right, this guy's $500 million.
You go to his about page, and it just says, it says Dan Pena, the barrio bad boy, born in Jacksonville, Florida. Oh, this is incredible. Yeah, I mean, if you go look at this guy's Google search results, by the way, this is all gamed. Like, go look at page 1, and basically he's basically done like a sort of like SEO hack here. So it's like Dan Pena net worth, the untold story of the $1 trillion man. His net worth reaches $500 million in 2025. This is by startupbooted.com. There's an MSN article, Money Made. There's not any like bitcan.com. None of these are like legitimate websites to be on page 1, top 5 rankings of Google for anything that's real.
Maybe he's going to come on here so we can ask him all these questions.
Like there's a subreddit where a user writes this really long thing. There's no upvotes, no comments, but like, you know, Reddit has strong SEO, and so it's going to show up at the top of Google. So like, I think this guy is sort of Andrew Tated himself with building this brand, I guess, for himself.
Let's watch one more clip, John. The third one that's listed.
If he comes in and roasts us, he calls us the C word.
Great. I can feel my net worth going up.
Was that the quantum leap I just had?
Yes.
You can't help yourself. You ought to go home to your mother. Boom, boom. Kill your fucking
gun.
parents, metaphorically speaking.
Nice.
Metaphorically, he saved that one.
Yeah, he did.
Covers the liability. I like it.
Yes. So I really want to go to one of his seminars, and just to experience it.
You should.
Because I think you can definitely learn something from it.
Wild.
Have you ever had someone on My First Million where you were like, oh, I think looking further into this guy, that guy's a scam. Like, have you ever had someone on like that?
Yeah, we've had Ty Lopez on. We've had the Fire Festival guy on. Like, but we didn't have them on like thinking one thing and then another. We had them on being like, "Yo, what are you doing? What's your Fire Festival? What happened? Did you really think that shit was gonna work?" And then he's like pitching Fire Festival 2, and we're like, "Bro, this is a terrible, terrible idea." So yeah, we've had some people on that I would say are like, not the most credible.
What's your read on Ty Lopez?
Yeah, I was just about to ask that. Also, hold up. Was this before he actually launched the Fire Festival?
This was after he got out of jail, and he owed, I think, $27 million to like restitution. So basically, like, I didn't fully understand how that works because like he's definitely not making that much money. So, but he's got to pay back that amount. So I think like in whatever business he does, all or the majority or some portion of what he makes has to go back to paying back, the victims.
Wow, in sandwiches.
And it was like 21 million or 27 million, he said. But even that sounded like, are you just saying that to turn that into a cool story? Like, it's very hard to if you're talking to somebody who basically lies prolifically, it's a very difficult podcast episode.
Yeah. And what about, what you were saying about Ty Lopez as well? So you don't think he's legit?
I know he's not legit. The question is like, is there anything else to say that's interesting about him? I think that Ty Lopez, he's not talented. Right? I think same thing with this guy, Billy. Like, people who are frauds or con people, it's not that they're not talented. They just pointed it in the wrong directions. So like, I think Ty was a very smart marketer. I think he's a good salesman. I think he's, financially, he's actually like pretty financially literate. Like, his schemes are not like super simple. Like, he's not selling a $9 PDF on his site. He's raising money into these like funds that he's doing using crowdfunding regulations. And like, then he's using that to do these like bankruptcy buyouts to buy the e-commerce rights to Radio Shack. And these, he's like, it's not like he's doing nothing, right? He's doing things that are actually like somewhat sophisticated, somewhat complex. I just view it as like, talent sort of pointed in the wrong direction. Like anyone who becomes, a bit of a fraud or a con. Like, right now there's like a meme going around about Sam Bankman-Fried, the guy who started FTX, who's now currently in jail, right? And what did he do? He's created FTX, this big crypto exchange. People deposited their money. It became the hottest company in the world for a period of time. I think it was valued at $30 billion, like a few years after it was started. And he was the boy genius. And he was like, the media loved covering him because he wore jorts and he was a vegan and he drove an old car, even though he was a billionaire, and he was aloof and he played video games during meetings. Oh my God, what a child prodigy! Like blah blah blah. That was like the image, the sort of like autistic prodigy type of image that he created / the media loved.
That was all intentional marketing too. Like he knows positioning.
Yeah, he or the people around him, like he was not unaware of what he was doing. They were like, show up looking scrappier, pay attention less in these meetings, they'll love it, right? Like there's stories about his team explaining that strategy. Anyways, he's currently in jail, and they just went through the bankruptcy process for FTX. And what he did was he took $9 billion or so of customer funds out of the accounts where you thought you had your money deposited, but actually he took the money and gambled it using his his hedge fund that was on the side, lost $9 billion in the process, and then didn't have the money to repay. And then when people kind of smelled that something was up, they started trying to withdraw, and there was no money to withdraw. And then the whole thing collapsed, and he got in trouble as a huge fraud for basically stealing customer deposits and gambling it all away. Now, the crazy thing is that FTX actually was a successful business. Had he not just decided to like steal the money from the customer accounts, I think the business was doing 300 or 400 million a year of profit. It actually was valued at that amount. It wasn't like Theranos where the machine didn't work, right? They take the blood sample, they run in the back, they mix it with some cat hair and bring it back to you, and they're like, oh, you're free, whatever. It's like there was no like Wizard of Oz component to this. Like the technology worked, the product worked, the usage was real, the growth was real. The dude was just a gambler and like took the money and gambled it away, and then like tried to borrow more to like recoup, and then it ended up in a hole. It's like the movie Uncut Gems, basically. It's kind of like what actually ended up happening there. Now, the business was actually successful, hundreds of millions a year in profit, and then he invested money also into other things. So all of his investments also were not terrible. They were just illiquid. So, for example, he put $500 million into a small AI research lab that built something called Anthropic, which is probably after ChatGPT, it's like the second, third biggest AI-based tool like ChatGPT. Claude is the name of it, and so Anthropic is valued at like 40 or 50 billion, and he owned like 10% of Anthropic. So he owned like a multi-billion-dollar stake of that off of as a great investment. He put $200,000 early on into a company called Cursor, which just got valued at right about $10 billion. So like, he would have turned $200K into $200 million or something like that. Maybe more, maybe even $1 billion, depending on the initial valuation. And so like, he actually had some like pretty amazing bets. They owned a bunch of Solana. Solana's done really well. And so like, the crazy thing was he didn't need to do any of the shit he did. He just pointed his talent in the wrong direction and blew himself up when actually like he actually had a legit thing going.
That's insane.
Yeah, I think about that too with somebody like Pablo Escobar or like any like illegal like mob, mafia, crime business. It must be so difficult. These are like masterful problem solvers, like these guys.
Right.
They just like, if directed into something legal, they would still make a ton of money.
Dude, they say that like with, this is off the record, but like drug dealers in like school when they're growing up usually sometimes make the best entrepreneurs if they actually leave that, because it's like when they would like sell drugs or whatever, they would actually have to like, it takes, you're running a business. You have your runners, you have all these different things, and you don't really think about it, but the reality is like these kids are focusing on the wrong things. If they're focusing on a different thing to sell, dude, you'd crush.
Yeah, but I think the risk meter is just off in their mind.
What do you
Because
mean?
you need to have the right kind of risk meter where you need to be aware of fatal risks and just avoid them. And a lot of people think something's a risk when it actually isn't, like quitting my job and starting a business. For most people, that's actually not a risk unless you have children. Because like, could you just get another job again if it doesn't work out? Yeah. But then there's like these colossal mistakes, like, hey, I'm going to gamble away all these people's money, or even like dealing drugs. Like you get caught, like you end up in, like, that's not worth it.
So let me challenge that. I mean, this is something I've realized with a lot of billionaires and like a lot of very, very successful people is like they get to a point where money doesn't really give them the dopamine hit they're looking for. So the reality is like you have basically enough money to buy everything, experience any experience you want. And I feel like the only thing that might kind of get you excited again is doing something that is quote unquote risky or is illegal. So do you think that's something that happened with him where he like got to a place where he had so much money and none of the stuff really mattered? So he was like, you know what, fuck it. Let's see where I can take this. What do you guys think?
I don't think so. It's very hard to tell, but like, yeah, I don't think that's what happened here. And I don't think that's usually the path that you first become uber successful the straight way and then decide to take up crime.
Yeah.
For fun. Like,
Yeah.
you buy GTA 5 instead and you just like go punch people on the street in GTA. Like, I think that's where you get your outlet. So I don't think that's usually how it happens.
Yeah.
True. Absolutely. Well, Shaan, thank you so much for coming on. This has been fun. This has been great. And yeah, if there's any way I can support you with the YouTube stuff, let me know.
All right. Amazing. This was fun, guys. This is a fun podcast to do. I appreciate you guys having me on.